everything to be successful, or most things to be successful, everyone knows what to do. It's a matter of executing it. And really what I want to go over really briefly today in this introduction is 7 key things and strategies on how I've found to execute these 7 different things. And again, this is not going to be earth-shattering stuff, at least I don't think, but for the most part, in the execution of a lot of these things, is a little bit tougher than me just saying the word. So without no further ado, we'll talk about time first. I always hear people, oh, I'm too busy, I'm so busy, this, that, and the other thing. But really what you need to do is master your time. There's 168 hours in a week. You have to be able to budget and basically prioritize those 168 hours. Also, take time for what it's worth. It's very, very precious. Not just your time, but any client you might be meeting or anything that you're doing. If you have an appointment, treat time for what it's worth, which is very, very precious. And I like to say I'd rather be 15 minutes early 1,000 times than late once. And one of the things I've done to really manage my time personally is, I schedule everything out, I write down on a piece of paper. And if it's something where it's a physical activity, I'm not sitting there with a timer. But say, for instance, I'm going to do like emails. So I'll have a kitchen timer, 20 minutes on emails, 20 minutes of writing, 20 minutes of planning. Break it down to where basically you almost gamify the time that you have control over. Because without that, sometimes, you can find yourself, let's use this word I hate to use, overwhelmed by how much time there is or lack thereof. When we really realize it, there is 168 hours. Let's just say for argument's sake, you're sleeping 7 hours a night. So basically, you got 120 hours to work with. If we really peel back the onion, we would find a lot of people aren't super productive with those 120 hours, or those that are real productive with that time, they never say, wow, I don't have enough of time, or wow, I'm overwhelmed. So the first thing really is you want to become a master of time. That leads us into our second key word, which would be routine. Find a routine. Me personally, what I do is, this is going to sound crazy. I get up an hour earlier than I need to every single morning. So I got to leave my house. I get out of my house at 5. So today, on Mondays, I get up at 3. I get 3 o'clock in the morning, and I have a routine. First thing I do is I get up, I shower, I make my coffee, and then I sit with my thoughts for an hour with my cup of coffee and my rocking chair, and I just sit with my thoughts. You want to call it self-meditation, you want to call it planning, whatever you want to call it, it's become a big part of my routine. And I found this to be very, very important. Once you leave your home, especially first thing in the morning, you do lose control over time and routine to a certain extent. So before, if you're ahead of the traffic, so to speak, you have control over routine, over time. So I've gotten into the pattern of getting up, a routine of getting up an hour earlier than I need to really plan out my day. I want to call it meditating, so be it. But I found that hour is probably my favorite hour of the day. I'd rather be up, have control over time and routine, as opposed to really be sleeping. That leads us into the next thing, which is during that time, try to figure out what really motivates you. For some people, it's fear. Some people, it's anger. Some people, it's just trying to accomplish as much as they can. For me, believe it or not, one thing that really, really motivates me, I hate being embarrassed. I really do. And getting back to the whole time thing of being late, I can remember the handful of times I've showed up here at my training facility where I was actually late for a session. And I can still think back to 1 or 2 times, and literally I was mortified. So embarrassment is something that kind of motivates me. I'm not going to say it's going to motivate you. Again, for other people, it's fear. Some people, it's anger. But really, figure it out. And maybe during that routine where you're sitting with your own thoughts, figure out what really motivates you. Not what motivates, Rich Sadiv or Jeff Van Gogh, but what really motivates you. A lot of these things, I think everyone has the same things they have to accomplish, but how you get there is probably going to vary. You have to figure out how it fits into your day, into your personality, into who you are. Leads us into number 4, don't compromise. Don't compromise who you are. If anger is what motivates you, or fear or embarrassment, hey, own up to it. Hey, that's who I am. Don't tell me how I should be motivated. Don't tell me what I should really be thinking. This is who I am. I'm very comfortable in who I am. And that's the way I lead my life. I think what happens a lot of times, people in today's day and age, they try to fit into a certain script, so to speak. You know, if I'm a round peg, I go into a round hole. Hey, it feels like, well, if the peg is square, I'm going to try to bang myself into it. Now, don't compromise. Be who you are, be comfortable in who you are, and then be the best that you can be at that. Again, it all kind of fits into the routine and figuring out what motivates you. Gets us into number 5, fill your lanes. If you look at a Olympic track, there's 8 lanes on a track. Each one of those lanes should be filled with a person who you can count on, who maybe you look to for advice, but most importantly, it's a person you know who has your best interest in mind, not theirs. So if you look at your 8 lanes, you have one of them. Be the best you can in what you do. Don't try to be the master. Don't try to be a jack of all trades and a master of none. Definitely a lot of that going on. So be in your lane and figure out the other 7 lanes. Try to pick up these pieces as you go along. I can tell you right now, it's not going to be easy. Finding 7 people that have your best interest in mind, especially subject matter experts, might be trickier than it seems. But you'll figure it out pretty soon. You know, the Portuguese have an expression that goes, if you hang around with bats, you end up sleeping upside down. So try to surround yourself with people who don't have, you know, their best interest in mind, but have your best interest in mind. If you say to them, no, I don't want to go out tonight because I have an early meeting tomorrow, if they try to convince you to do something you don't want to do, it's probably a person you don't want being in one of these lanes. Again, it's fill your lanes, find people you look up to, find people that you respect, and vice versa, they respect you for your opinion and for your wisdom. So now you're obligated to them, that you're the best in your lane. Especially in what I do, I know like a lot of track analogies. I do see a lot of people crossing over who think they could train or do anything in every specific field, which for the most part isn't true. And find the subject matter experts, find people you can count on, find people you can trust. And once again, find people who have your best interest in mind. Now it'd be, I need to go to number 6, is something very close and dear to me, something that I found has been a really big part of, if you want to say I have had success, is movement. Find some way to move. You know, if it's weight training, if it's walking, if it's running, find some form of exercise. You want to have a strong body and a strong mind. I think without having a strong body, the mind eventually is going to go on you. I think it's very, very important to find a nice balance in those 168 hours to find time to exercise. There's always time. If it's 45 minutes a day, every other day, one thing I hate is when people say, I don't have time to do that. I think that's just a cop-out. I think it's crucial. It's been crucial to my success. A lot of the people that I've trained, here at the facility, I find the more successful they are, they find time to get to training in. These people, hey, they're busy just like we are. They're successful people. They've found 5 hours out of the 168 to do some type of training. Movement is crucial to your success, both physically and mentally. So find time to exercise both your body and your mind. I also like to do puzzles just to keep my mind nice and sharp along with my movement. But exercise is definitely a big part of what I do. I kind of try to link exercise up with some type of competitive, endeavor. Hey, I want to run a 6-minute mile. I want to run a 5K under 20 minutes. I want to deadlift 600 pounds, whatever it might be. Also helps keep me, sharp, both mentally and physically. All this then now leads to probably the most important point. And this is something that's probably taken me a long time to figure out. So all 6 of these things, every day you do something. Probably the most crucial thing that you need to discover or figure out is what brings you joy. Once you figure out what brings you joy, doing no matter what it is will become easy. Now, you don't work from joy back, you work towards joy. And I would say this, for most of us, no matter what form of joy we find, if it's travel, if it's exercise, hey, if it's sitting home watching Netflix, you have to have a certain amount of financial wherewithal. You know, money doesn't cure all ills, but it certainly makes it a lot easier having money than it doesn't to be joyful. So look at everything that you do, and it should basically pyramid up towards joy. And you'll find that getting up an extra hour early, having a set routine, finding what motivates you, not compromising your faith and your beliefs, you know, finding these 7 people that you can rely on, exercising 5 to 6 times per week, become very, very easy. Because once you're able to accomplish all that and you figure out, wow, that really makes me happy, then nothing becomes, wow, I don't have enough of time. I can't get that done. Everything then becomes, I don't want to say easy, because nothing really is easy. It does make it manageable. Because we like to say, if Jeff could back me up on this, it's always going to be hard. You just get better at it. Well, I think it goes back to, like you bring up the deadlift, and there's times it's going to sound crazy. I get away from the lift, but I find when I do the lift, I'm successful at it. It brings me a lot of joy. And it might sound, I'm hoping I'm not sounding crazy, but really quick, Saturday I was feeling, it was a real long, very arduous week, a lot going on like everyone else does. And when I'm able to lift heavy weight, it just changes my mood and makes me feel good. So I look at something like that, something as objective as that. It's a very objective goal. For me, it's the deadlift. For you, it could be making, hey, I want to make $1 million. I want to sell 10 homes. I want to do this. Find something that's objective you could tie to, that if you accomplish it, you're going to feel, wow, I feel great. There's no other feeling I feel better than making $1 million, selling 10 homes, doing whatever it is. Make it objective, and it has to be your goal. You can't fake it. And then we talk about social media. Obviously, I'm 58, so the social media, as you see, I can't even get on Zoom properly. It's a struggle here. But I found with social media, the big thing is you should use that to trumpet your success. Trumpet objective successes. Don't, hey, if you do the sale, if whatever it is, if it's your success, put it out there to the world. But I hate to use this word, don't be a fraud, don't be an imposter. Use it to basically say, hey, this is what I did. Here I am. I'm proud of what I've done. So it has to be something that's specific. To me, it's the lift. If it's a run, whatever it is, it's very, very objective. And, I do fall in love with the numbers a lot. I do chase numbers. But I found for me, again, brings me a lot of joy. And I think one of the biggest takeaways besides the joy part is, find people that you can look up to, people you can strive to be like. Don't let people bring you down. Oh, this is terrible. Oh, this is bad. Oh, I got no time. Again, you end up sleeping upside down then. Surround yourself with winners. Surround yourself with people who are optimistic. Surround yourself with people you want to be like. And I feel the same way about you. I feel the same way about Jeff. Because obviously, the business here is pretty large and stuff happens here all the time, Greg.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What I usually do is I say to myself, okay, who can I delegate this to?
Right.
There has to be some type of delegation priority list. Okay, if the toilets get backed up, who gets the call? Okay, if the roof is leaking, where do I go? If the parking lot is being renovated and I didn't know about it, what do I do? So there has to be, in your mind, there has to be a list, and that has to be mental. Okay, where do I go? What's the diagram look like if this happens? So there always has to be a plan B, because as you know, the bigger the business gets, the more plan Bs you see every day. But what I also like to do is And like today, I might have made a little bit of an error, so shame on me. I don't like scheduling like hard appointments back to back to back to back, because that's just a plan to fail. It's like you just said, something is going to come up. So like today, for instance, I have like 3 or 4 consecutive hours kind of back to back to back to back. So now something comes up, then it's like, okay, I have to take care of these clients first. They're the priority. They're the ones who basically keeping the power on. Something happens, then I got to kind of like really, really act quickly on my feet. So one of the things I didn't talk about is experience. After a while, the longer you're in business, the longer you own buildings, have operations, the more opportunity you have to see things go wrong. When I was in my previous life, I ran very large operations that you name it, it happened. So it became like, wow, if this happens, now I know this is what I have to do. So that definitely comes with experience, keeping a cool head. And Jeff always walks me through this. If your first reaction can't be fly off the handle. You always got to be cool under pressure. Yeah, I've never met you, but I'm going to say you probably have the same problem I have, is letting go of some tasks that we need to let go of.
100%.
And that's that's one thing Jeff and Ralph have helped me with is, hey, you got to understand that you can't be mopping the floor. It's just great that you show the rest of the workforce you're willing to do anything. You're willing to pitch in when it's needed, but that can't be your primary function. Hey, if the toilet's over leak, your first reaction should be, hey, where's the mop? It should be, okay, who am I going to call the mop? So again, I'm not beneath mopping the floor, but there has to be some type of delegation involved, and I think that's one of the things a lot of people who've kind of worked their way up, as I know Ralph has, Jeff has, I'm going to assume you have also, we have a hard time delegating. Because sometimes in our mind, we feel if something needs to get done right, there's only one person for the job, and that's us, which is a poor way to think. One of the words I left off of this list, because I try to keep it to 7, but if there was an 8th word, it would be experience. I think the more experience you garner, the better ability you have of understanding what you can let go of effectively. And it definitely is definitely a skill. And boy, I'm almost reminded of that every single day. Again, that's why I like getting up. That's why I like getting up early, because I'll sit with myself and be like, hey, Rich, you got to be more effective at it. Like, you can't run to every single time there's a little smoke. Hey, if there's a fire, hey, yeah. But if there's a little bit of smoke, then we put on the suit and get in the hose. This is kind of like how you work back from joy. You work back from recovery. And right now I'm, I try to become the slave to many masters. And I started getting Ralph really got me into the running. I started doing competitive 5Ks, 3,000 meter indoor. And I started mixing in the heavy deadlifts, heavy back squat, and heavy bench press. And I found, boy, it was a lot to mix in. So I'm really now just trying to pick my poison, so to speak. But the big thing is recovery. So right now I'm doing cryotherapy twice a week, dry needling twice a week. I have a really good therapist group here in the facility, and I really manage my recovery. I have a sauna in my house. I take whirlpool baths like twice a week, and I follow a real strict eating regimen, which is based on time restricted eating. And for the most part, I follow a vegan lifestyle. So as I've gotten to the point where I am at 58, and I still want to lift heavy because it brings me a lot of joy, I found that everything else has to be 100% in line. And what I've really become is an expert on my own self. When do I have to back down? When do I have to go for therapies? When do I have to stop? Or when can I push forward? So it definitely comes with experience. But the running and the heavy lifting, yeah, it could be the body sometimes just won't cooperate, but figure out like what is, hey, I can't do it, and what is, hey, I can work through this. But really, you got to get the recovery really in line.